instead of without. So much so.
Hi guys, Matt from Naval of Viscaris here. Doing my Patreon interview with the fan questions from you guys. Before we start, I'd like to thank each and every one of you who's contributed to Patreon so far. It's been fantastic. We've been able to do so much because of it. We wouldn't have been able to do the US tour without it, and this upcoming tour with Enslaved and a UK headline run just would not have been possible. There's no way we would have been able to afford it. So thank you guys. The one guitarist that's had the biggest influence on my playing would have to be Corey King, Neo's old lead guitarist. Before I was in the band with him, my style was very, very different, and he introduced me to all different chord shapes and just a heap of different progressions and a different way of approaching the guitar. Not that we actually sat down and really did any theory practice or anything like that. It was just, I think his influence and writing style had a massive influence on me and my playing. So yeah, for that question, it'd have to be Corey King. Alright, in all honesty, I didn't want to change to 7 strings, but it's just sort of happened that way. We'd written all the stuff on the Aurora Veil and Portal of Eye and whatever, all on 6 string, and when Benji joined the band, he just happened to have a 7 string guitar, which was fine, and but there isn't really any 7 string on Portal of Eye. There's like 1 or 2 riffs on the whole album, but then Citadel was Benji's first, I don't know, real open slather with how the writing was going to go, and so him just having a 7 string and normally playing on a 7 string, he naturally wrote riffs with the 7th string. And we toured in Asia, and we were playing Pyrrhic on that 2013 tour, where I was playing that song on my 6 string guitar and Benji was playing all the 7 string parts. But as we got writing into like Painters of the Tempest and Devour Me Colossus, I sort of didn't really have any choice. I had to get a 7 string guitar. So that's the reason why we use 7 strings on Citadel. I really like to play with Pantera, but that's not part of this question. Probably Opeth or Devin Townsend Project again. Pretty much just because I really enjoy their music. I just can't get enough of it. Or if a band that's not around anymore, Strapping Young Lad. I never ever got to see Strapping Young Lad, so yes, Strapping Young Lad is my answer. Opeth, specifically Mikhail's endorsement of the brand, may have influenced that decision. No, it didn't influence my decision at all. I didn't even know that Opeth played on PRS guitars when I got my guitar. The only guitarist that I really knew of in the metal world that played on PRS was Paul Allender. And I was right into Cradle of Filth at that time as well. But he's the reason why I started looking into PRS guitars. And the fact that where I used to live, at the end of my street, there's a shop called Sindel Music, and they're a PRS distributor, authorised distributor, whatever. And they just had walls of PRS guitars, and at that stage I think they were like one of the only ones in Victoria that had that sort of a range of PRS guitars. And I'd played brands like Ibanez and Jackson and a few other brands, and I don't know, they just didn't sit right with me. And then as soon as I picked up the PRS guitar, I just felt like it fitted my hand a lot better. When I went to the Stoptail Bridge, that took me a little bit to get used to, but the neck, that was the big thing. Neck and the tone. And then being able to try every single PRS they had in the shop and choose the bits that I liked out of all of them and put them together in my own guitar and get it made. Yeah, that's pretty much the reason why I chose PRS guitars. The main difference between Benji and my playing and writing style is just everything. Yeah, we're two completely different guitarists. Just the way we use the guitar and just everything about the way we both play guitar is completely different to each other. But the biggest thing I think is Benji's lead ability. He's just miles and miles and miles better than I am, and that's the biggest difference. Top 5 beers. My favourite beer would be Mountain Goat Steam Ale. There's one. Little Creatures Bright Ale. A few years ago, I was really going through. There's a one called Pepper Jack. I think it was a lager, but had a tiny bit of Shiraz in it. I was drinking that for a while, but I haven't had that for a couple of years now. There's a Red Hill Brewery beer. It's a little brewery down on the peninsula, just in Port Phillip Bay. What else? And a regular one would be something like James Squire Pale Ale. Just the pale ales, like either that or Fat Yak, something like that. Matilda Bay, James Squire. Yeah, the top 5. And by far, I believe that Australia has the best beers and best range of beers in the world. It's a bit of everything. I feel like that as a band we always create the best thing when we're all jamming together. As painful and as painful and difficult and unfocused as it can be sometimes, I think we come up with the best sections of music that way. So like I think back to songs like Devour Me Colossus, like the second half of it, that was all in a room jamming, or Pyrrhic, the whole second half of Pyrrhic. We had the first half for quite a long time, and then we just get to that point and we just started, that whole second half was just like a big improv jam that we did, and we finished that in just one session and just came up with heaps and heaps of different variations and improv and just picked the best of everything and built it right up. And yeah, so like I feel the best way to do it is as a group, but it doesn't always happen that way. We all do right at home and we do send it through. I don't really present songs to the band. Benji does sometimes. I present sections, so I might have like one or two riffs or sections that go well together, and then I give it to the boys, see what they can do over the top, and maybe see what direction we can take it from there. And the person I enjoy to write with the most is Dan, just because I love drums, and drums can really change the feel of a riff or a song or whatever like that. So yeah, I always, guitarists always enjoy playing with drummers, but the person that I actually write with the most and work on stuff with the most is probably Tim. We just seem to gel when it comes to writing stuff. He'll have an idea and he'll try and explain his idea to me, or give me a strumming pattern or something like that, and we'll come up with a riff that way. Go-to meal would be pasta. Anything from like macaroni cheese, bolognese, just whatever. Either in a can, or sometimes I buy the dry pasta, and if we've got a microwave or something like that, I just put some water in, stick it in the microwave for about 10 minutes. Cooked, all good. It fills me up, it's cheap, it's easy, it's a safe meal. So yeah, pasta would be my go-to meal. Either that or cornflakes. How is the new material coming along? Really, really well. Benji, Brendan and I have been coming up with heaps of riffs and just sending them back and forward. We keep writing songs and then all of a sudden someone else will come up with another section of a song and steal it from that song, so we have to, we've got lots and lots of bits and pieces of songs, and hopefully we can join some of those together or just extend them all out, and we'll have enough for a full, I think we've got enough for a full album right now. We just need to sort of finalise structures and just sort of get a bit more of a set structure down before the boys can sort of start working on their solos and leads and vocals and whatnot. But yes, it's coming along very well, and hopefully by the end of the tour we've got pretty much the whole album written, We just need to just finalise a few things before we head in the studio early next year. What are your top 5 favourite albums? Michael Jackson Thriller it would be a top one. Dream Theater, Scenes from a Memory. Deftones, White Pony. Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power. And Opeth, Blackwater Park. Are there any other genres of music besides rock and metal that have had a major influence on the music you write? I'll say no. I pretty much only play rock and metal. I do listen to a little bit of rap, just not very much, just stuff like Eminem, and I really like Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. But besides that, all I listen to pretty much is rock and metal. I play bass in a rock and roll band as well, and we just play cover songs of like the Beatles, and Elvis, and Chuck Berry, and all that sort of stuff. So. Out of Neo stuff, my favourite riff to play would be probably the opening riff of Painters of the Tempest. It's just a cool riff to play. And if someone else, I don't know, something I always keep coming back to is Opeth's Deliverance. I do it a lot in Soundcheck. Yeah, it's just a cool riff as well. By potentially free software. Thinking to help write music, manage business, marketing aspects, blah 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 blah. Something that would be cool would be something like Pro Tools on your phone. Something that you can record with and essentially use like Pro Tools, but have it on your phone so you can just have a plug-in for your distortion or whatever you want to use, and be able to track like that. Like they've got cool things like the iRig and whatever, but I want to be able to track as well on the road without having to take a whole computer and interface and all that sort of stuff to use. Just something cool. Like it wouldn't be doesn't necessarily have to be album quality, but just to be able to track ideas down without just putting your phone on to the microphone mode, because it always comes out pretty crap. Yeah, that would be cool. Otherwise, something I've been thinking about since I first read this question was it'd be cool to have an app that was a tour app. So you could have all your things like your day sheets, your flights, what time you have to be up, what time you have to be there, what time sound check is, what time you're meant to have dinner, what time doors, set times, all that sort of stuff in it. So, because I find when we go on tour, you get to a venue, sometimes they've got day sheets up on the wall, sometimes you've got to ask people, and sometimes you never know, you just sort of hang around all day and you waste a day because you don't know when you're needed. That would be cool. A lot of times on the last few tours, like I'll get an email saying what time I need to be doing things, but not always. If everyone could have an app where they could all link their phones to and just look it up every day is updated, or even most of the information put in there before the tour starts. Things like, like even venue addresses, a map so that you know where you are, things to do around the venue that are close, Wi-Fi passwords, all that sort of stuff. That would be a pretty cool app. Your favourite band outside of progressive music? Progressive music is a pretty hard term nowadays. I don't know, the obvious ones outside of progressive music, a lot of bands that I grew up listening to would be bands like Sepultura, Nirvana, Cradle of Filth, Eminem, and Pantera, I reckon, outside of the prog music. Yeah, they're the bands that I've listened to the most, I think. So that's profoundly impacted your music career. Only tab books. They're the only ones that have had an influence on my music career, I'd say. And those tab books would be And Justice for All, Vulgar Display of Power, and Nevermind. That'll be the first few tab books I've sort of got. Yeah, they're the only sort of books that I reckon have had an influence on my music career. And nowadays I don't really get to read any sort of books, I just read children's books to my kids. Any type of chord and scale that you feel a strong attraction to as a musician? The minor scale of whatever, E minor, A minor. It's just, we just use that quite a lot. No, I wouldn't say there is anything that I feel a strong attraction to. Just whatever the song requires. How do I hold my pick? I hold my pick like this. Bend my finger around, pretty much a pretty standard one. I use the Dunlop standard Tortex 0.88mm pick, the Neo signature ones. They are the same as the other ones, but that's what the signature. So thank you.